Okay, well, this is my 60 litre ARB fridge. Don't know if you can hear the motor running, which it is. Lights on. And the display's just come up. Now that was off just a second ago if you saw from pan from before, and that's just the intermittent problem that it's got. So the panel is very intermittent, turning on and turning off. So I took it to the repair shop and they said, look, you can't get parts for these so easily. And they also feel there could be a problem on the motor controller. It said it's uneconomical to repair. I've had it for 10 years, and you know, you can see by the stickers all over it, by the general wear and tear that it's in. I've used it a lot. So, you know, for the $1,200 I spent on it the day I bought it, I think I've had really good use out of it. But I have seen a YouTube video about a guy that's replaced most of the electronics with a simple single component that does a good job of it, and I'm going to see if I can replicate something like that. So it's a bit of a shout out to Tim Terry, whose video I saw. No explanations in it, but certainly it does lead me in the right direction. I've done a lot of reading about electronics and wiring. I'm no Sparky, but you know, I can work out the electronics, and let's see how far we get with it, and I'll try and bring you along with the journey and see how far we get. Okay, so I've taken the 12 screws out that hold this in. 1, 2, 3 on the other side, and the 6 on the base. This back cover tends to want to peel up in that direction, revealing the electronics in here. And I just want to do a couple of tests on it, because I've seen that if we jump a couple of the cables in this area, we can test between the T and the C and check if the motor will run, which, I mean, obviously it does because it was running a second ago, but I just want to do a couple of bump tests on it, because the guys in the shop reckon that there could be a fault in that controller. And if that's the case, you know, it does make it a lot more of an expensive repair. But to be honest, with the price of that component and the repairs that I think I can do to it, I still think I can get out of it very cheaply by comparison. And these Secop compressors, which this one is said to be really bulletproof. And so if anything were to go wrong with the compressor, well, you know, that tends to change the plan. But I believe everything else is going to be good. This here is the thermostat. I believe this gum just holds it in, and that P-clip. So I'll take that out shortly and pull the thermostat out, because I've got a replacement thermostat in the controller that I'm using. So here's the thermostat, or thermistor as it's called. It was in that hole there. It was in as far as here, but there was a resin in there with it. You can see the fragments coming out, so it was a bit of a pull to get that moving. I'm going to see if I can clean out the gunk that's in there, so I can press it all the way in. This I've measured up this coat hanger wire to the length of how far it was in, and it's got to go in that much further. So I'm going to tip the fridge back into its feet and see if I can get some of that rubbish to come out of there and enable me to get the new thermistor in to where it's going to have to go. But before I tip it up, what I've done is I've just loosened the electronics here. There's 3 screws that hold this into there, and this is actually the main control board for the fridge, if you can see that from here, which the majority of which we'll be able to eliminate with the modification I've got planned. But let's just loosen a few more things up so I can get this panel off and out of my way, and then I can tip the fridge where I want it to go. That's the main board, looking at it from the top, and I think we're starting to see some signs of corrosion on some of these terminals. So yeah, there's definitely the beginning of some problems on this board anyway. So you know, that could be where some of my other issues are coming from. The compressor here and the compressor control is all looking quite clean, so that's a good thing. Looking at this main board, I'm probably going to recover a couple of the components off here just to make my life a bit easier. If we have a look at this wire here, this goes up to the control board, and the display, and plugs into this one. So so it sort of makes sense to keep that wire, which is buried in the case, and just reutilize the wiring to here. So if I unsolder that off the board and bring it onto its own flex, then that'll just give me an easier way to put it all back together, and to be able to separate the power. I mean, it really 240 in to 240 out. I'm going to eliminate all of that. Just run straight 240 to the compressor. The beauty about these controllers, these Secop controllers, if you read the wiring and the electronics on all of those, and if you have a look, you can see here the part number 101N0500. If you do a bit of research and have a look at it, they've got the low voltage controller is built into here. The 240 versus 12 volt input all works in through here. So and the number of times this is going to be running on 240, I don't see the reason to keep all of this electronics for the infrequent use it's going to get. I've seen these wired and plumbed to regular fridges, just running straight 240 to the live and neutral, or active and neutral as we call it. You can see that in there, the active and the neutral. So that's how this fridge will run and be wired. So I've done my best at cleaning out this thermistor housing. I can get it as far in as that, which is, you know, pretty close to where it was. And if you measure that underneath, it does actually go to the center of the fridge. So really, I think that's going to do me. So we'll be happy with that for now. I'll get the thermistor down into that hole. At the front here, the control panel, it does require a bit of prizing with a knife to lift up the sticky on the edge. When you do lift that sticky edge, you'll see there's a screw hole just there. I've taken the screw out of it already, and then there's another one, I'm matching it on the other side. So when we pull those screws, when we pull that panel out, it's an adhesive surface on the panel. There it is. And there we have our control panel. So we've got that 5-core wire coming up to our control panel, and I think I'm going to desolder this off here so I can just make an inline plug out of it, and join that up to the new controller, and I'll show you the new controller shortly. Yeah, so that's the original controller, and so this one here, and I'll put a link to that in the description, but it's actually just a generic thermatic controller. It's actually, what's the part number on that? downloaded a booklet for it. It's the W3230 microcomputer temperature controller. That's a little bit more about what it does. You can actually get those on Amazon, and you'll be surprised by how cheap they are. I won't reveal the secrets, but you have a look on Amazon, they're cheap. So that's the main board again there, and you can see I've got out the soldering gear and started to take that board apart. I've just basically removed all of the connectors that I can use. That's the power in and power out. I'm going to mate those together and just basically reuse original wiring and plugs. This one here is from the original switch, and I'm going to have to run a new switch because it's an electronic switch in this one, which I'm going to need to replicate, but I'll work out a way to do that. And this one goes to the compressor motor. So I've taken that off, and what we can do is we can actually just use those pins to wire to, and then that way I've got connectors rather than just hardwired plugs, which just makes it a little bit more serviceable and easy to fiddle with. Okay, so I've kind of gotten a bit carried away with some of my soldering and whatnot. So I've been doing a bit of soldering through the day here and not taking any video, but you know, it's all just join wires and join wires. As you can see, these are the surface plugs from the original board, which I've made into wiring harnesses, and I'm yet to sort of gather this and put it together and make it a bit tidier. Most of the wiring is actually the original wiring out of the fridge down to the original plug, but then the original plug on with a couple of extra wires here to basically put things together. I made up a bit of a wiring diagram, and I'll include that, a better diagram of that a little bit later on, so you can see what I'm following to make this work. An additional component I bought was just a basic 12-volt relay, which I'm going to need to shut off and on the fridge. And one other thing I got was, this is going to be the switch for the lid, just like a normal fridge lid, but it's actually a car door press switch. I've modified it down a little bit, and I've actually already installed that. I made up a rod like this one and threaded it through the body of the fridge to go from top to bottom to lock the top of this to the top of here. I'll show it to you actually on the fridge. So if we open the fridge down in that back corner there, I've basically adjusted the height of it. So those things have got height adjustment, so I've taken it down to that level. That's the top of that rod that I showed you before in the fridge, and that'll just get secured with this screw here. So you can see where that is on the fridge, and over here it goes through to the top there, and underneath it just runs through to a bolt, and that will be the second side of the contact for the fridge light switch. So that'll work when the fridge door opens. So that's it, screwed in and tightened away, and when the fridge lid closes, there you go. So that's locked anyway. And the other thing we want to look for is some of this stuff. This is actually spoken of in the ARB repair warranty, repair manual, when you put the new thermistor in. The part number for this is a JCAR item. There it is there. That's exactly what the ARB manual looks for. And so what I've done is put the new thermistor into the old sleeve. There it is there. Look, you could probably use the original thermistor if the thermistor is good, and in fact the plug on the end is the same as the plug on the board. But look, I've changed it because everything's then the one product, and I may not have any gremlins. All right, so once you get that sorted out, then we've got the control panel side of things. Maybe I'll lift this fridge lid. And then there's the wiring that goes down to the what was originally the main board. That's kind of built into the insulation of the fridge, so there's no moving that. I'm sure if there was a fault in that wire, you'd have to find a way to rerun it, but I'm just going to reuse that wiring, and again strip the board plug off so I can make an inline plug, which is actually what I've done. So there's that plug there, and there's the finished device. It does actually fit quite nicely in this area. There's a very little bit of trimming on the bottom with just a bit of a cutout on top too, just beyond where that lip is. And it's going to sit in there quite nicely, quite fortunately. And yes, that's not in the center. I did that for a reason, or a couple of reasons. I just figured it'll make it a bit tidier if I put it there, because then I can maybe put a little ARB logo on this side, and you know, a little bit of writing or something, and just make it look like it's supposed to be like that. And the other reason, in case ever I decide to put, you know, an on-off switch or something here that, you know, shuts it off completely, then I've got room to do that later. So I measured up the perimeter of this area here and made up a piece of template paper, and that's it. That's it there. To get the holes, these are the screw holes that attach the original board. They're blind ended, so something will only go in so far. So I shortened the back of a rivet and just put it so it was a little poking out beyond that and beyond that. Sat that on there and poked it through, and then managed to cut myself a piece of steel that was the right size. There's my panel there with the cutout, and it just sits in there and lines up, and I'll decorate that a little bit later and see if I can hook it all up. So there it is at the moment in all its not so pretty glory. Secured and sitting there quite nicely. Again, I'll decorate that a little bit later and make that look a little bit more presentable and look like it was supposed to be there. On the back, I've actually tidied up a lot of my wiring. Put it in harnesses. I mean, it's not gathered yet because I'm yet to test the fridge. In fact, there's just one more little thing I've got to fix up. In my original wiring, I've wired into the negative to get the negative for the top control panel, and it turns out that the Secop compressor cuts out the negative to select 240 over 12 volts, which means that that you won't get negative power out of this one. So I'm going to have to move that down to another common down the bottom, but we'll do that and then we can test the fridge and see if it actually functions. So it's getting a bit exciting. So I've got all that back together now, and nice and neat. So I've also had a chance to fix up that front panel and make it a little bit better. You can see I've just vinyl wrapped that, and I'm yet to make up a sticker and a logo and thing and put it there. It's been a day since I actually last videoed, and the good news is I have actually got it up and running. So you saw me use a relay inside there before, and I've since taken that back out again because the thing is, the relay is not the way to work it. Let me just tell you, I've found a couple of ways not to wire it. But if you hear there, you can hear the compressor running already. And come and look around at the front. Here's our first look at this new display running. As per the way this works, you've got an out light that's out of range, so it's currently not in the set temperature. That's the present value, or the present temperature inside the fridge, which is 5 degrees. The set value, which I've got it set for 3 degrees, so it's going to keep working away until it cuts out at 3 degrees. We can adjust the settings. You know, you hit this and we can adjust what temperature we want the fridge to go to. You know, we go up to let's go 4.5 degrees even. 4.9, 4.8, maybe, let's do that. If we leave it at 4.8 and then just let it run, once that fridge cools down another 0.1 of a degree, that'll cut out. Can you see it with the light? There we go, that's a bit better. It's like waiting for the water to boil, isn't it? Anyway, you have to trust me, it works. It continues to cool, gets to the set temperature, and away it goes. So there's an instruction manual, and again, I'll put a link to that in the description, how that all works, and where to get that from. But yeah, I think that's a great little repair. One of the, there you go, heard it cut out. One of the other things I had to do was work out a new way to wire it, because the relay just didn't work, and I needed to get an extra wire up to the control panel. Except when you're trying to go through the fridge to get to the control panel, it's just not going to happen. But as you'll see, the light circuit is just behind the control panel, just through the way there. And if we just pull the lamp out, I managed to grab a tail off the back of the negative and run my negative through to the control panel, straight through here. So that gave me an extra wire to run the wiring as I wanted to. I'll show you a circuit diagram of what I did and how I did it, which kind of just makes it a bit easier to follow. The colours of the wires as I use them and things like that. And I reckon I've got a good usable fridge again. And really, when you look at it, the repairs I've done on that with some parts that I had at home already, you know, the bit of steel and the wiring and the soldering and the heat shrink and all those things that I had, really all I bought for it, now that I've finished with it, is probably the control panel, and the switch. But you know, I reckon I've spent less than 50 bucks on getting this fridge up and running again. Time will tell how robust it is, but you know, we'll see.